slow going. 75th with Reagan Solway with a crash in the right lane. Edens, 24 minutes Lake Cook Junction. Kennedy, 45 minutes O'Hare to downtown. Eisenhower, 52 minutes from 390, 40 from Wolf. Stevenson, 55 minutes, 355 for the drive. Ryan, 39 minutes from 95th. That's traffic. I'm Jim Calamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center, a few morning showers, cloudy, windy, cooler with the rain picking up again in the afternoon, high 58. It's 49 at O'Hare, 52 Lakefront. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com.
Cause they got the beat, the campus beat, the campus beat. Yeah, the campus beat.
Yeah, the campus beat, and takes us to Hyde Park, University of Chicago. The Chicago Statement. That's how it's referred.
What's that?
The statement of opposition to trigger warnings and safe spaces, because universities are and should be marketplaces of ideas, free exchange, not top-down or peer-to-peer censorship. This back in 2016, John Ellison, the Dean of Students at U of C, to the class of 2020, wrote, "Our commitment to academic freedom means we do not support so-called trigger warnings. We do not cancel invited speakers because their topics might prove controversial. We do not condone the creation of intellectual safe spaces where individuals can retreat from ideas and perspectives at odds with their own." Robert Zimmer, the president, U of C, in a Wall Street Journal op-ed following that missive from his Dean of Students, "Universities cannot be viewed as a sanctuary for comfort, but rather as a crucible for confronting ideas and thereby learning to make informed judgments in complex environments. Having one's assumptions challenged and experiencing the discomfort that sometimes accompanies this process are intrinsic parts of an excellent education. Only then will students develop the skills necessary to build their own futures and contribute to society." Well, these are champions of free expression and robust substantive debate on campus, and they're not going to tolerate the sort of thuggery that you see on campuses not named University of Chicago, right? No. Wrong. It's a fun statement of principle. It's a fun marketing tool. But if you talk to U of C students, as we do, it's a statement that is not reflective of the campus culture. And so while you have some people paying lip service to ideas like those expressed by U of C's Robert Zimmer and John Ellison, in practice, it just is the case in very few institutions of higher education, alleged higher education. And so U of C gives us Evita Duffy. Evita Duffy is a second-year student at University of Chicago. And she's also the daughter of Representative Sean Duffy.
Oh, really?
And Rachel Campos Duffy. There was a University of Chicago Institute of Politics digital initiative called I Vote Because ... where students pose with a small whiteboard stating their personal reasons for voting. Some examples, this is her op-ed, some examples included Medicare for all, universal health care shouldn't be considered a radical idea, children shouldn't be kept in cages, I vote because, ellipsis, those were some of the answers. She's a conservative Hispanic woman, as she points out. She wrote, I vote because the coronavirus won't destroy America, but socialism will. Is that particularly offensive to anybody? Well, it was to all of those Bernie bros and sisses on campus. She says, recounts, does Evita Duffy, fellow students attack my character, my intellect, my family, my appearance, even threatened me with physical violence using foul and offensive language. I was called a racist and a xenophobe. I don't even know how that's you can apply that criticism to that statement, but okay. Some compared me to animals. Others declared that they would personally stop me from voting. And many defended the personal attack, saying I deserve to be bullied. I don't belong at University of Chicago on account of my beliefs. I was told by many that I was the most hated person on campus It was frightening. It was also hurtful, since some of the attacks came from people I considered friends. As writing this opinion, which he wrote last week, the administration and the Institute of Politics, that's alternatively known by me as David Axelrod's Institute for Political Skullduggery, which is what it actually is, have not come to my defense, he writes. The administration, IOP, have not come to my defense, nor have they condemned the intolerance and violence students have directed toward me. Just another day on a college campus. For more on this topic, generally speaking, we're pleased to be joined by Mary Grabar, Executive Director of Dissident Prof, Resident Fellow at the Alexander Hamilton Institute, and author of Debunking Howard Zinn, Exposing the Fake History That Turned a Generation Against America. Mary, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
So, University of Chicago, here we go again, one of our elite institutions. These are the best and brightest that matriculate there, and this is the culture on campus, as so described by Evita Duffy.
Yeah, and it's a shame particularly because the University of Chicago has had a reputation as being very rigorous and dedicated to scholarly inquiry for the longest time. It had that reputation, I know, when I was in graduate school, and that's one of our highest institutions that has fallen. The ideology has spread like a poison.
Well, what is the university doing, though, in response to this? I mean, obviously, there's no freedom of expression on campus, but she is getting threats, and shouldn't they be doing something?
Oh, absolutely. I taught until 2013. My PhD is in English, and I taught at a number of universities and colleges here in Georgia, where I'm temporarily staying. And I am now a resident fellow at the Alexander Hamilton Institute for the Study of Western Civilization up in Clinton, New York, which is an institution that was founded by three Hamilton College professors, and we have our student interns, and the same thing happened in 2016 to the leader of the Republican Club. She was physically followed and threatened and screamed at by a male student across campus. And on any college campus, you will see everywhere references, posters to the bias response team. She got no recourse from the administration at all. And this grows out of this sense that there is only one way of thinking, and that is a quasi-socialist way of thinking, a Marxist way of thinking. And a lot of these students have been indoctrinated with Howard Zinn and his books and believe that if you go outside of the set ways of thinking, that you are all of these things. You are racist, which was one of the communist talking points. If you don't agree with us, then you are a racist. You're also a xenophobe. You're also, a homophobe and everything else that they scream at you.
And Howard Zinn, so for people not familiar, most notably People's History of the United States, which made its way into a lot of K-12 school systems and exists to this day. How influential has his book and the teachers who treat it as gospel in informing students' understanding of America? How much of what we see on college campuses today is a direct result of the teaching of American history from that perspective for the last few generations?
Well, yes, the book's been in print since 1980. It's sold probably over 3 million copies now. There is the Zinn Education Project, which is a nonprofit that was started by one of Zinn's students from Boston University who became quite wealthy in the evil capitalist system. That has had over 100,000 teachers signing up to get free downloadable materials. Zinn's book, A People's History of the United States, is being used in high school classrooms, especially for advanced placement U.S. history. It is in the form of a young people's history of the United States, which is geared towards middle school students. And the downloadable materials from the Zinn Education Project are tailored to specific grades as young as first grade and kindergarten. There are spin-off books, A People's History of American Empire, A People's History of Art History of the Civil War, and on and on. There are movies, documentaries that are available for sale that are shown in classrooms. I've come across books that have excerpts.
Right, but so now take one of those modules and give us a flavor of what you get from Howard Zinn. Howard Zinn tackling the Civil War, tackling the Civil Rights Movement, tackling World War II.
Well, for the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Panthers are civil rights leaders. World War II, the U.S. was as fascist, if not more so, than the Nazis. For Christopher Columbus, there's a role play activity where Christopher Columbus is put on trial. So a lot of these activities are role play, so students don't even have to read anything. They are directed by their teachers to take certain roles, and Christopher Columbus comes under indictment. And, of course, they read a short passage from Zinn's A People's History of the United States, the famous opening chapter, which is full of critical omissions and plagiarisms, as I detail in my book. And it's very deceptive the way he presents Christopher Columbus. One way that I point out is from page 1, where he uses ellipses to leave out critical information that gives the opposite impression of what Christopher Columbus actually intended. So students might get this kind of a sentence, which also was used in an episode of The Sopranos. So they would make fine servants, the ... the ellipses that indicate that, some information was left out, but not critical. And then he goes on, with 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. Well, what's left out is, as I point out in my book, I know that they are a people who can be made free and converted to our holy faith more by love than by force. So those are Christopher Columbus's words. He wants to convert the natives to Christianity, and he wants to do it with love more than by force. The way Howard Zinn presents it is that, that Christopher Columbus simply wants to enslave them all and subjugate them.
Well, that's particularly timely as Chicago Public Schools have just canceled Columbus Day, as you undoubtedly know. And Seattle did it years ago, and Columbus, Ohio, of all places, has done it. And so, just the power of that book and that curriculum, other than doing what you've done, which is to debunk it and then try to get that as part of the conversation, what is it that parents or educators should do to sort of end the multi-generational indoctrination you're describing?
Well, I would suggest that they get my book because what I try to do, and what I do with over 1,000 footnotes, is to document not just how Howard Zinn was anti-American and an America hater, but how he actually distorted history. His history is as distorted as one that I bring up by David Irving, who is a Holocaust denier. So I intend my book to be used as a tool to use it and look at the footnotes that I provide and where I show how such critical information is left out in these famous passages that are taught to students as the truth, and how he is not writing legitimate history, even though he was a historian and had a PhD in history. Parents should get on curriculum committees. They should also be aware that these moves for abolishing Christopher Columbus Day often come right from the Zinn Education Project. They send out kits to teachers by which teachers are given instructions in how to recruit their students to petition against Columbus Day. And they're educated with these lessons to believe that Christopher Columbus came and deliberately committed genocide, that he was a greedy capitalist motivated by his lust for gold. So it would be quite interesting to see how that whole process came about in Chicago, first with the use of Howard Zinn's book, and then with the Zinn Education Project kits that are freely distributed to teachers to petition school boards, local governments, state governments to abolish Columbus Day.
She is Mary Grabar. She's the executive director of Dissident Prof. She's also a resident fellow at the Alexander Hamilton Institute. And the book, Debunking Howard Zinn, Exposing the Fake History That Turned a Generation Against America. Mary, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Dan Frio with the Mortgage Update. FHA loans are still among the lowest rates in the industry. So if you have an FHA guaranteed loan and made your last 12 payments on time, you may be eligible for not only a low rate, but also a reduction in your PMI. If you're like me and hate seeing the $200 a month in PMI on my statement, let's do something about it. Many of my clients are able to reduce the amount of years that remain on their mortgage and also keep the same payment they're paying now. Today's FHA refinancing rate is 3.125 with an APR of 3.62. So why give this money to the bank when you can put it into your own pocket? To reach me personally, call 844-775-LOAN. That's 844-775-LOAN.